It's a mistake that a lot of people make because of youth, because of lack of foresight, because of a lot of things. We're in agreement that our system in the United States is a broken one. I don't think what we can do is pretend if we take this broken cog over here and shuffle this broken wrench over here and move it around, somehow it'll work better. The incumbents must go. I don't think there's any rational reason for allowing someone to have 5 terms in office. They have long since stopped representing, in my opinion. And we need that shuffling to happen so that fresher ideas are allowed to rise to the surface. None of this is going to happen by putting a different piece of the same broken puzzle up on a platform. And that's what we have continued to do thus far in our political landscape.
It's the story of a place called Mouseland. Mouseland was a place where all the little mice lived and played, were born and died, and they lived much as you and I do. They even had a parliament. And every 4 years they had an election. They used to walk to the polls and cast their ballot. Some of them even got a ride to the polls. Got a ride for the next 4 years afterwards, too. Just like you and me. And every time on election day, all the little mice used to go to the ballot box and they used to elect a government. A government made up of big, fat, black cats. Now, if you think it's strange that mice should elect a government made up of cats, you just look at the history of Canada for the last 90 years, and maybe you'll see that they weren't any stupider than we are. Now, I'm not saying anything against the cats. They were nice fellows. They conducted the government with dignity. They passed good laws. That is, laws that were good for cats. But the laws that were good for cats weren't very good for mice. One of the laws said that mouse holes had to be big enough so a cat could get his paw in. Another law said that mice could only travel at certain speeds so that a cat could get his breakfast without too much physical effort. All the laws were good laws for cats, but oh, they were hard on the mice. And life was getting harder and harder. And when the mice couldn't put up with it anymore, they decided something had to be done about it. So they went en masse to the polls. They voted the black cats out. And they put in the white cats. The white cats had put up a terrific campaign. They said all that Mouseland needs is more vision. They said the trouble with Mouseland is those round mouse holes we've got. If you put us in, we'll establish square mouse holes. And they did. And the square mouse holes were twice as big as the round mouse holes. And now the cat could get both his paws in. And life was tougher than ever. And when they couldn't take that anymore, they voted the white cats out and put the black ones in again. And then they went back to the white cats and then to the black cats. They even tried half black cats and half white cats. And they called that coalition. They even got one government made up of cats with spots on them. They were cats that tried to make a noise like a mouse, but they ate like a cat. You see, my friends, the trouble wasn't with the color of the cat. The trouble was that they were cats. And because they were cats, they naturally looked after cats instead of mice. Presently, there came along one little mouse who had an idea. My friends, watch out for the little fellow with an idea. And he said to the other mice, look, fellas, why do we keep on electing a government made up of cats? Why don't we elect a government made up of mice? Oh, they're sending the Bolsheviks. Lock them up. So they put him in jail. But I want to remind you that you can lock up a mouse or a man, but you can't lock up an idea.
I know that things have completely evolved all over the world. They have it in Canada as well, where the corporations have a tendency to have their hands in government a lot more than the people do. The representation is not a direct vote. We vote for the party. We don't vote on the person. And so people strategically or try to strategically vote, and typically it's not for somebody, it's typically against the previous government who has somehow been fiscally irresponsible. It kind of goes round and round from election to election. People need to really start voting their conscience versus voting against who they don't want. And I know this is the problem in Canada, is people do not vote their heart. It's a problem, and I'm frightened for the people of Canada for giving up their strength through numbers in showing what they truly want. In Canada, we still use a pencil in a circle. I get very frightened about California's system and the computerized system and how many things that are there that could be tampered with. Maybe I'm old-fashioned that way, but democracy is about having your say and doing your research, and I take my right to vote very seriously.
I think that you said that people who decide to tactically vote are uninformed, and I just have to say that coming from my standpoint, it doesn't necessarily always mean that you're malinformed about another option. It's that you operate under a different set of beliefs in what the vote means. So if you collectively put your votes towards, let's just use Obama, then the idea would be that maybe during his election, even though he has flaws and faults, that you can kind of, in those same masses that voted for him, also push for what you would like him to push in Congress or push in a bill, things like that. But I think I also heard Celene say that tactical voting was something that was starting to be used in the government in Canada. Am I wrong about that?
No, tactical voting is definitely something that I've known to happen here in Canada, because a lot of the times the West has such a little amount of say regardless of how they vote. People feel that they need to have tactical voting in order to have any impact, is to completely oppose whatever point of view and campaign towards towards that opposed view. It's sort of the opposite of what we need to be doing, and that's been their strategy, was not to necessarily vote for the member of parliament whose point of view best suit that community. It's been voting for the lesser of the two evils, is the way they would put it. And certainly it's just not the right way to vote, because there are other options. And in Canada, you can vote independent if you have an independent candidate. You can vote Green Party, you can vote NDP, you can vote. There are many, many choices. And I think that's one of the great things about the diversity of Canadian government, is the way the parliamentary system works. And we often listen to it. I listened to the throne speech was today, because Parliament was taking place starting again today. It's not just about tactical voting or non-tactical voting. It's that I think in general, as the course of democracy is evolving in Canada, people are starting to see that their vote does matter, especially because of the minority government situation in our parliament system right now. So,
and Isaac, I did want to just say I do agree with voting with your conscience instead of tactical voting. I'm not making an argument for it. That, again, I'm coming from a place of kind of a conflict inside myself, and as far as where my politics lie and where I need to be looking for the future in where I place my votes, my energy, ideas, everything. So I just kind of want to make that clear. And thank you, Celene, for